Hi there, this is Robert, and I'm illustrating an Oregon grape today. You can see down here I have just at the end of a sprig with some berries attached, some fruits. This is a column of leaves. You can see that the leaves are arranged sort of symmetrically across the way. Basically, I've chosen this sprig because I feel like it holds a lot of qualities of the plant that I'm illustrating. So basically what I'm going to do is start out with a graphite sketch. I'm thinking about spiraling and curved lines because we know that straight lines are going to be rather lifeless and we want to add some dimension and gesture to this sprig. So I'm really amping up those curved lines. You'll also notice that my orientation with the sprig is a little bit different than the way that we are viewing it on this video. So my perspective will be a little bit changed. And you'll also see that my head is going back and forth between the sprig itself and this drawing. So it's important to remember that you always want to continue looking at what you're drawing. You want to draw what you see and not what you think you see. So if I'm noticing that I'm looking less at the sprig, that would be something to be wary of because you'd be drawing from memory at that point, and you want to correct that. So don't be afraid to erase, always work lightly. I'm drawing very lightly with this graphite pencil so that I can make corrections. And as things start to feel solidified to me, I'll start darkening those lines. So I'm working semi-architecturally. I'm thinking about where things fall as far as spines on the leaves go. And then once I have things figured out, I'm going to work in with the Copic multiliner. So this is an ink pen. It's a very fine tip. And I'm just working out the very boundaries of what it is that I'm drawing. So you can kind of think of this illustration portion as creating the coloring book version of what we are drawing. Just like the graphite pencil, you want to be working very lightly here. You don't want to press too hard because that can damage both the pen and also ruin your drawing. So you'll notice those very characteristic, like holly sort of points on the leaves that I'm drawing. It's important to pay attention to all of the telling characteristics of a specimen. And this particular sprig, it only has about 7 berries on it, 7 fruits. Normally there would be a lot more, and so you'll see at the stem of the sprig, there's a little bit of rough texture there, and that would be where the berries connect. When I was actually collecting the specimen, I forgot my shears, so I had to use my fingernails. So it's a little bit raggedy where I collected the specimen, and I actually like that. So I'm going to make sure that that's part of the illustration too. So in drawing this, I actually realized that there is sort of a spiral pattern here where these berries were supposed to connect. So I'm mimicking that spiral pattern. So that's just an example of observations made while drawing that can inform your understanding of a plant. So I'm adding just a little bit of shading here with my multiliner, just so that I know where to add some shading with my watercolor, and then I'm cleaning up that graphite. So with my watercolors, I'm using a chromium oxide, a sap green, a raw umber hue, Naples yellow, cadmium yellow, ultramarine, and cerulean blue. The leaf itself is actually like a pretty cool green, but I'm starting out with a warm yellowish green. This is the sap green that I'm using. That is because if you look at the stem portion of the leaf itself, down the center line, it's a little bit more of a yellow tone. So because we're working in translucent layers and we want to build up those layers, I want to get that yellow layer down first. And I also notice a little bit of that yellowness as an undertone in the stem, so I'm just going to lay that right down too. And here I am working in that cooler green for the actual, the broad portion of the leaf, thinking about the textures of the striations within the leaf and laying down the watercolor to match those. So here's an example by Albert Dürer. This is actually from 1503. This is a large piece of turf. So you can see some illustrated dandelions here. There's lots of yellow tones. While this is really old and aged and has probably yellowed over time, you can see that he also started out with a sort of yellow base for most of his dandelion forms here before proceeding with the darker greens. So continuing on with that cooler green, still thinking about those striations that exist, but also going over with just like a general a wash of that cooler green, because we know that the leaf itself is generally flat. Those translucent layers that we build up will really show in a subtle way. So you can see I'm avoiding that center striation because I want that bottom layer to show through. And you always want to work your brush strokes in the direction of the surface that you're drawing to. Since those striations in the leaf are angling diagonally outward from the stem, that's the way that I want to paint that. It's important to be as true to life as you can as far as color is concerned, because while there may be variations in nature, you're not necessarily sure which direction those variations exist in. So you want to be as true to what you're observing as possible. You can't necessarily erase watercolor, but while it's still wet, you can blot it to reverse it. A little bit of that pigment is going to stay by because the watercolor does soak into the paper, but it's always good to have a paper towel around for mistakes. And once I finish up this last leaf, we'll be able to start the stem and the berries here. So I'm just going in with a very diluted blue tint. This is that ultramarine. And I'm mixing it with a brown to give it more of a gray tone. These berries have sort of a dry exterior, and some of them are a little bit shriveled up, so we want to communicate that. And here I am going in with more of a rusty, darker brown. This is the umber tone. And here I am going in with the Naples yellow just to reiterate some of those striations in the leaf. And once you're all done with that, you can go in with colored pencil and just add a final layer of color. And any detailing colors that you need as well. You can see that in the stems where the leaves connect to the stem, I've added a little bit of red, and I've also added a little bit of red detailing to the berries themselves. This particular scan is a little bit warmer in tone than the actual drawing itself. Thanks for following along today. I hope you had fun, and I hope you have some time to make an illustration of your own. If you do share yours on social media, we'd love to see it. Just use the hashtag #CUFieldGuide. Thanks.